Hello, everyone. Hi. Thank you so much for joining us. Please make sure that you are on mute as you come in, and we will start shortly. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for today's info session. My name is Alexis Fox, and I'm the Marketing and Training Manager here with the South Florida SBDC. Before I turn it over to your facilitator for today, Miss Emily Armas, we're going to just go through a few things, let you know a little bit about the SBDC, and then we'll get started.
At Florida SBDC at FIU Business, our mission is simple: to help Miami-Dade and Keys businesses grow and succeed. Our consulting, training, and information services make it easier for local businesses to reach their potential. Whether you're currently in business or just starting out, Florida SBDC at FIU has the right tools, resources, and expertise to help you succeed. Visit us online or give us a call to connect with one of our business specialists today.
Okay, so as the video mentioned, we are the South Florida SBDC. If you are
PricewaterhouseCoopers is the largest professional services firm.
If you are interested in any of the consulting services that we offer, or if you are located anywhere within South Florida, we have centers all over the state. If you are located in Miami-Dade, specifically Monroe County, the Florida Keys, or anywhere within the city of Miami, we are your center here at Brickell. And if you want more information, you can use the QR code, and Lauren will be providing a link in the chat for you to register. So before we get started, there are a few things that we would like to do before we get into the workshop, during the workshop, and after. So before, we ask that you do silence your cell phones, be open to new ideas and thinking, and make sure that you subscribe, follow, and share with your networks and with your partners that you're attending this workshop. To subscribe to our newsletter, please scan the QR code or use the link in the chat. This is the best way to stay up to date on all of the different workshops and events that we have coming up. Also, to learn about different businesses and learn a little bit more about our consultants as well. So we do encourage you to subscribe. Also, follow us on social media. Share with your network that you're here attending a workshop. It always looks good when we can highlight you all and encourage you all to continue to share with others the things that you're doing to better your business. And then please feel free to ask questions using the chat, and just be eager to learn and collaborate with one another. Okay. And then at the end, we're going to ask that you leave us a Google review. Tell us how we're doing. The way that we're able to continue to do and develop this type of content for you all is by getting the feedback from you. And then make sure that you take the post-workshop survey. This is the way that you can let us know how we're doing, what we're doing well, what we could do differently, and the topics that matter to you as entrepreneurs. Okay. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Emily, who's going to be sharing with you all some tips and tools for your business.
Awesome. Okay. And I have a lovely little cat assistant here with me as well. So today, hold on, let me put this in slideshow mode. Great. Okay. You can all see my screen, right? Yes. Okay. Awesome. So today we are going to be talking about social media specifically for your restaurant business or your food business. Why social media matters for restaurants is because most of us, at least 90% of us, look for a restaurant online before we end up dining there, because we want to see, what are we getting ourselves into? What could we potentially eat? As we all know, we eat multiple times a day. And I guess unless you're intermittent fasting. But, you know, most of us eat frequently, and restaurants are just part of our lives and part of our culture. And so depending on your mood, depending on what you're looking for, you might do a little bit of research before you make a decision. And a lot of people turn to social media for that. Social media influences diners' choices based on what they see there. So it's really important that you think about what it is that you're posting on social media. And social media also will help you build a brand versus just posting a bunch of food pictures. Because when we're eating out, it's not just about the food. I mean, that's probably the biggest draw and the biggest thing that people are looking for is a good meal. But they also want to have a sense of what is the space that I'm eating in? What is the vibe? Do I want something casual? Do I want something a little bit fancier? And so it helps you to build a brand that reflects that through social media. So today what we're going to cover are 5 tips to boost your social media presence as a restaurant or a food brand. We're going to talk about how to attract customers within those 5 tips, and also ways that you can increase reservations and orders, because we know that social media is a great tool, but we want to make sure that we're actually translating that into orders and people coming into the restaurant, right? We want bodies through the door. Okay. So our first tip is make your content mouth-watering. Okay, so visuals really, really matter when it comes to food brands and restaurants, more so than other types of businesses that are promoting their services or their products on social media. We are visual creatures. We tend to eat with our eyes. So you want to really make sure that whatever it is that you're posting is the highest quality that you can possibly make it, whether that's photos, whether that's videos, whatever it is, your graphics, your logo, you want to try to make it as beautiful as possible, because we know that restaurants are competitive beyond just social media. It's hard to get a restaurant up and running. It takes a lot of bandwidth. It takes a lot of energy. And there's a lot of competition. And we're really spoiled here in the South Florida area in particular. We have a lot of great food options. So if you can make your content stand out by looking good, that will just help you all the more to attract people to come in and to potentially even become regulars. So how do we do that? These are some tips on how you can get the most out of your visuals. Natural lighting is key. So the sun is your friend, because even the most delicious food is going to look terrible in artificial lighting. So you want to really strive for natural lighting. You want to try to go for indirect natural lighting versus overhead sunlight, because that might create harsh shadows, and we want to really be able to see the food and see what it is that you're presenting. If you are going to create content and you're going to use natural light, the early morning light or late afternoon sun is the best. This is what they call golden hour. And if you are shooting inside with a phone, this is just a little tip for you. If you have, let's say, 2 people, right? So one person is going to take the pictures on one phone, and they're going to have somebody else with another phone. What you can do is that second phone, use the flashlight feature and kind of put a napkin over it so that it diffuses the light a little bit. And that makes it look slightly more like natural lighting. It'll just soften it a bit so it doesn't look quite as harsh as like flash or artificial lighting, okay? You don't need fancy equipment. You can capture all of the content that you need on a phone. You don't need to go out and get special cameras or lighting, etc. You can, if you want, invest in something like a ring light. Amazon has a lot of great options that won't break the bank, that work just fine, but that's up to you and what you have bandwidth for and what you have budget for. But this is just a nice pro tip. If you are shooting inside and you have at least 2 people, you can do that. Okay, so these are some of the editing apps that I recommend. There's Snapseed, Lightroom, and Canva. And which one you use is really up to you. They all have kind of different features. So I know when you're a small business, it's nice if you can just get more bang for your buck. So you might want to look into Canva if you're already going to be using Canva for other things within your business. But Snapseed and Lightroom are really great because they're really designed for visuals and for photo editing. And what can you do with these apps? Well, you can color correct. You can increase the vibrancy to make the colors pop. Lightroom actually has a feature that is called Food. So it's a preset that will kind of automatically adjust everything to help you get great content. So that kind of takes the guesswork out of it, which is awesome. Most of these apps also have something that's called Structure. That is a tool that you can use to help bring out details, which you want to do with food, so it doesn't look too flat or too bland. And then on Canva in particular, you can always add text. You can resize content, which is a really nice option if you're gonna, let's say you have a more like square-sized post for Instagram and you want to convert that into a reel. Canva will let you resize that really easily. So they all have different benefits. Specifically, what would work for you is something that we can talk about. If you want to sign up for consulting, we can chat through it and I can give you some more guidance. Another tip to make your content mouth-watering is to think about your angles. So these are gonna the most typical ways that we shoot food. And I promise I have visuals because I know there's a lot of text right now. There's the overhead flat lay, which is basically when you're taking the picture from above and you have the table set with a bunch of different dishes. When you do this, you want to make use of the negative space. In other words, the space between the plates. So you want to use napkins and water glasses or people's hands. That creates a more organic feeling and it just adds a little more interest than just a plain table with a bunch of stuff on it. A 45-degree angle is usually really great for capturing the dish and then some of the background. So you can use portrait mode on the phone to kind of create a naturally blurred background for you that makes the photos look a little more professional. It makes the food itself pop. You can do eye level or side view. If you have a taller dish, let's say you have like a seafood tower or you have a multiple layer cake, if you do a side view, that will just give you an interesting angle and it looks good. And then action shots are also great if you are going to do video, but even in photo, you want to try to capture things that are naturally going to make us hungry, like cheese melting, sauce pouring, somebody mixing a drink, right? It makes somebody feel like they're in the restaurant experiencing the food versus just looking at a static image. And you can do that in a little jiffy. You can do that in a boomerang, right? We have all these different options nowadays. This is what we want to avoid. This food does not look appetizing. It might taste great. I don't know, but it doesn't look good. I think we can all tell, right? It doesn't look good. It does not look like something I really feel like eating unless I were starving and extremely hungry. This looks,
I'm so sorry. The slides are not moving.
oh, they're not.
Yeah, we're still on learning objectives.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Okay, hold on. You guys are missing my visuals. Okay, let me see. I don't know what just happened. If not, you know what? Let me make this easier. I think I'm just going to do the PDF because, okay. My gosh, I've been talking to myself here. Okay. Let's see if this works. Ooh. And then view slideshow. Okay, so let's see. Okay, can you guys see this stuff is moving now, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, well, I'm sorry you guys were just stuck here, but anyway, I'll just kind of go over this briefly. This is the slide where we're talking about why visuals matter. Natural lighting, and I believe you guys will get a copy of this presentation, so you'll have this information. The best editing apps, if anybody wants to screenshot, this would be a good one in case you are looking for different apps to use to potentially edit your content. Okay, choosing your angles. This is what we talked about, kind of some typical angles that you would shoot for food. And this is, we see this, right? This gross plate of food. Yes, I hope. So this is what I was talking about. This is not appetizing. Nobody really wants to eat this. But this we might want to eat, right? We can all agree that these images are way more interesting. So the one on the far left, that's a great kind of style of photography if you want to give people an insight as well into your chef, for example, or your kitchen. It makes people feel connected, where they're not just looking at a plate of food. There's a little more interest to it. This also lends itself to various things. So you don't have to just promote, let's say, a chicken dish. You could talk about your process, or you could talk about farm to table. You could talk about something that differentiates you as a food brand. This middle image, I wanted to show you how you can get some action into a shot that is not a video. So the act of squeezing this lemon over, I think that, I want to say that's chicken, probably. I don't know. I'm assuming that's chicken. That gives you more than just a plain image, right? And it's interesting. We can all imagine what that lemon smells like, what that food potentially smells like. And then the picture on the far right, this would be an example of a flat lay. So they're taking the photo from above and you're seeing all of the different dishes. And I have more examples to show you as well. So when you are creating content, you want to think about the overall feed. What that means is, what is your actual account going to look like? Right? Because when people are browsing, especially a restaurant social media account, they want to see variety and they want to see different things, because they're trying to figure out, do I want to actually go here? Do I want to go here for dinner? Do I want to book this for Mother's Day? Do I want to spend my birthday here? These are the questions that they're asking themselves. So you want to give people a feel of what it's like to actually be in your restaurant and what they might experience. It's kind of like a preview. Think of it like a movie trailer, if you will. So you want to include not only food shots, but also ambiance. What is the vibe? What is the overall feel of the restaurant? Because also when we eat out, we have practical questions, right? How fancy is this? Do I need to dress up? Is it more casual? Can I bring a child? Can I just show up without a reservation? We need to understand these things. And it's great if you can do that through social media. You're going to answer a lot of questions that somebody might have when they're making that decision on where to eat. So I want you to think about, what story are you telling, right? What is your restaurant branding? Are you fast casual? Are you fine dining? Are you somewhere in between? Is it a family-owned restaurant? Is it more of a special occasion restaurant? Is it a restaurant that caters more to like the business crowd, for example? Think about where you're located. If you're in Brickell, depending on where you're located, you might draw a lot of people that are coming in for lunch. Maybe that's what you want to focus on. You want to think about all of these things and how somebody would actually interact with you on social media so that you can answer these questions. But I think the most important when you're thinking about your food branding is, what do I want people to feel? Because that is going to dictate the type of content that you create and the way that you go about it. So if you want people to feel welcome because it's a more homey kind of a space, that's going to be different than a restaurant that is super modern, that may be serving more avant-garde dishes, where people are going there to not only eat, but also be seen and to experience something that they wouldn't necessarily on a regular weeknight. So you want to think about how you want people to feel. How do you want your customers to feel? Because that should translate into the visuals. So to give you an idea of what I mean by that, the restaurant on the left, Otto and Pepe, and these are all Miami-based restaurants, by the way, the restaurant on the left has a much more casual feel than the restaurant on the right, right? We can see through the use of text, through the fact that they have this charcuterie platter, just looks like on a piece of, brown paper that's been folded up. It has a more casual feel to it than the photo on the right, which would indicate that that's maybe more of an upscale restaurant. That's a restaurant that has more of a romantic vibe to it. If we look at it, it might be a good restaurant to go for a special occasion or for a date or for a celebration. So these are very different styles of restaurant, and we're getting that just from the way that they're presenting themselves on social media. Same thing here. We have a restaurant on the left, and you can tell from this, a little bit about the food and the spread, but there's a white tablecloth, right? That already indicates that it's probably a little bit on the higher end side or more leaning towards the fine dining side than this option on the right, which is Enriqueta's, by the way, if anybody was wondering, right? A Miami institution as far as a restaurant, but very, very different price point, very different food, very different reason that somebody might want to go to the restaurant on the right. And what I also want to point out to you is that, especially when it comes to food and with restaurants, we tend to not just stick to one category. as opposed to other businesses and other kind of products that, you know, we might find like a laundry detergent brand that we love and we stick to it and we don't veer from that. With restaurants, it really is dependent on emotion. It's dependent on mood. So the same customer can be visiting both of these restaurants, but the time and place and the occasion might dictate when it is that they're visiting. So you want to just be able to express that, and understand that people have range, especially when it comes to food and what they're in the mood for eating, because we don't typically just rely on the exact same thing all of the time. I was speaking a little bit earlier about the feed and giving somebody an idea of the style of the restaurant. So on the left, this is Tina in the Gables. It's a brunch restaurant, and you can see that they're not really focusing that much on the food. They're focusing a little bit more on ambiance. If you were to scroll down on this account, you would see more food shots, but the shots look like they all belong to the same place, right? So this is when we talk about branding, that it's cohesive, that it looks like it all belongs. Nothing looks out of place, nothing looks out of character. You get a kind of earthy feel, you get something that is casual, yet a little bit modern, a little bit minimalist. You're not, you know, in a space that is super homey with a bunch of knickknacks, but there is a warmth to it. And then on the right, we have another restaurant. This is Bunbury. And you can tell that this is a slightly different vibe from the way that they're presenting the food and the way that they are showcasing different things. Or they're featuring a little bit of the decor. They're featuring the food, of course, and they're showcasing that, but in a different way. They have distinct styles. And so you want to make sure that whatever it is that you're posting does look cohesive and it does all feel like it's you and it's your restaurant and it's your space. And branding really does have the power to drive revenue. Crumble Cookies, I know, is more of a food brand. It's a product that you would buy. It's not necessarily a restaurant where you would go to experience it, but it is possible to absolutely drive revenue through social media. And Crumble Cookies is a great example of that. They have expanded to 700 plus locations across the US in just a few years. They have a loyalty program with millions of members. They hit $1 billion in revenue. And their success actually led them to partnerships with brands like Kellogg's. And their branding is very eye-catching. It's very memorable. So don't underestimate the power of branding, even if your business model is not something like Crumble Cookies. Branding is something that will absolutely stay in people's minds. And again, it's really tied to what is it that we feel when we're in that restaurant and in that space, and how do you translate that as a brand? And the most important thing is to really stay consistent with your brand and make sure that people get a feel for who you are and what it is that you're about. I know this is a really long tip, but we're almost through this one. Do not neglect video. Video is very, very important, especially these days on social media. And so I wanted to just give you a few quick ideas of things that you could do. You could do a time lapse of the food being prepared. You could gather clips of the process of creating the dish and kind of put that together from how it starts in the kitchen to the way it comes out into the table. You can show food being plated. You can do slow motion shots of little details of finishing the food off. So for example, adding salt, right? Drizzling a sauce, making a dressing, adding a garnish. You can also show the food being consumed in a slow motion way. So somebody cutting into a burger, for example, somebody dipping something into a sauce, stirring something, right? These create action, and these are things that people are going to do if they come to eat there. And so it's great to give them a preview. And with video, you want to keep it short, you want to keep it engaging, and you want to include a lot of movement from the beginning. Do not hold a shot for a second. That is literally too long. I know a second is a second, but you want to create movement because that will grab somebody's attention. When there's movement, when there's something happening right from the beginning of the video, that's when we pay attention. So don't put, a long title card on it or anything like that. Get right to it and show us the food, show us whatever it is that you want us to see. And it doesn't have to be complicated. I know video can be a little bit intimidating, but you can use templates to help you. So there are editing apps, for example, like CapCut, InShot, or even Canva, where they already have templates available specifically for food and for restaurants. That template is designed to create content for those businesses. And so you can follow that by simply uploading your clips into that template, and it'll cut it for you automatically. So you don't have to get too complicated with it. So it's a great way to approach video content in particular. Our second tip here is to post consistently. So posting consistently will pay off in the long run. And the reason is because social platforms work on algorithms. The algorithm needs you to feed it, food pun intended, enough content so that it understands what it is that your account is about. So you need to kind of train the algorithm, and you need to teach it, hey, this is who we are, this is what we do, so that it can start to figure out who to show your content to. And the algorithm is naturally going to favor an active account because it needs material to work with. The material that we're talking about here is posts. So the more that you post, the more the algorithm understands your account, and the more that theoretically you will get shown to the right people. And so that's what we really want to focus on, and why it's so important to post consistently. So how often should you be posting if you are a restaurant? I would recommend, if you're on Instagram and TikTok, to post at least 3 to 5 times per week if you can. And use the stories as often as possible. So use Instagram stories. TikTok also has stories, but typically we think about stories on being on Instagram. You want to use that to help you drive engagement and help you drive foot traffic. And we're going to talk a little bit later about different tactics you can use in the stories, but make sure that you're posting often, because if not, the algorithm is not going to work for you. And you want the algorithm working for you as much as possible. So what should you be posting? You can post behind the scenes kitchen moments. You can, so people are doing prep, or people are taking something out of the oven. Those are great things to capture. You can capture the actual restaurant space, kind of give somebody an idea of the decor, where they're going to sit, what is it like inside. If you have new menu items that you want to promote, you can do detail shots, menus, plates, napkins. If you have specials or seasonal dishes, customer reviews and reactions are also great. Any kind of process where you're showing the food, people get really curious, because typically restaurant food, not always, but can taste better than what we do at home, right? So if there's any kind of tips or tricks, or just a process that naturally piques curiosity. And if you have any dishes that you're really known for, or you're most popular, that's a great thing to post as well. And when we're talking about consistency, you want to leverage tools that will help you to stay consistent. So these are just some examples of tools that you can potentially use. Later, Hootsuite or even the Business Suite will help you schedule content so that you can have a little bit of peace of mind, where you can get into a system where you're creating the content, you're editing it, and then you have it ready to go, so that you're not doing this real time, because we all know things get busy. We have a million things that we're trying to do as business owners. And the last thing you need is to try to figure out how to do social media because you don't have a post ready to go for that day. So the scheduling tools will help you with that. Now, if you're wondering which platforms to use for food, I would recommend Instagram probably is the top priority, because it's great for building a brand, and it's great for food related accounts. It's a very visual platform, which lends itself to restaurants. TikTok is also really amazing. TikTok, you really have to be great at video content, but you do have a higher chance of being discovered on TikTok than you do on Instagram, just because of how the algorithm tends to work. YouTube would be great if, for example, you're trying to establish the chef, or if you have a restaurant with a very popular chef and you want to create a sense of thought leadership around that chef, and you want to be an authority in the space, I would focus on YouTube. And then Google My Business, this is not a social media platform per se, but it is definitely important for local SEO, which we're going to talk about. How many platforms you should be posting on? I always say start with one. Don't make your life difficult unless you have help and you're paying somebody to do this, in which case do more than just one. But if you're trying to manage this internally, start with one, get that going, become consistent on that one platform, and then you can add on. But you don't want to spread yourself so thin in the beginning that it's hard to stay consistent, because that's not going to help you in the long run. Once you're consistent, I would say ideally 2 to 3. Again, that's going to depend on your bandwidth, and that's going to depend on your personal results. What do you see working for you? Which is another reason why we want to stay consistent, is so that we actually can establish and verify, like, oh, okay, you know what? Instagram doesn't actually do much for me. So maybe I shouldn't spend as much time on Instagram, right? You can't know those kinds of things unless you're posting. And then we already covered the scheduling tools. Our tip 3 is to engage people like a host. So you want to think of social media as being digital hospitality. So you want to remind people that there is somebody behind the account, right? People like to connect with real people versus just some kind of faceless brand. And people like to support small businesses. People like to see their local restaurant thrive. They don't, I think we've all experienced where you had a restaurant that you loved and then it closed, and then that's annoying. We're sad, right? We're all upset about it. Like, oh man, that place was so great. It's so sad that they didn't do well, So we want to avoid that. People like to support their local businesses, and a way to do that is to engage with them online as you would in person. You don't want to neglect your audience. So how can you translate hospitality online? Well, if you ever get questions or DMs, you want to respond in as timely a manner as possible. You want to respond to comments, and you want to create opportunities for conversation in your content. And there are a lot of different features that you can use, especially on Instagram, where you can use polls in the stories, for example. You can use a countdown clock. Let's say you have a new menu coming out. You can have people ask you questions. And then if you wanted to, depending on the type of food that you specialize in, you can start debates, right? Like a New York style versus Chicago style pizza, which one is better? Or, who makes the best empanada, right? These are things that people have opinions about. And so you want to create an opportunity for people to discuss, because that helps with your engagement and it helps them feel like they're part of something. And you want to encourage people to post, and you want to feature them. So when somebody takes the time out to take a photo of their food, to tag you, you want to repost that just as a gesture, to let them know that you are aware and that you're grateful of the fact that they're doing that, because they don't have to do that. And that's wonderful, right? That's free publicity for you, essentially. So you want to repost the stories if somebody's tagging you. You could also create a hashtag for people to use for your restaurant and use that on your posts. You want to make sure that you are encouraging people. So if appropriate, depending on the style of restaurant you have, you might want to create a little table tent or some kind of a QR code for people to follow you. You could create a loyalty feature. You say, hey, if you follow us today, you get X number of points, towards your loyalty. Or let's say you're a cafe. You could say, if you follow us today, we'll punch your card an extra time. If you do one of those cards for people who come in frequently to get a free coffee or something like that. So you want to encourage people to follow you, and you want to encourage them to engage. Our 4th tip is to use local SEO to attract diners. So SEO stands for search engine optimization. As we talked about at the beginning of this presentation, people are going to search. They're going to look for a new place to eat. And so you want to be able to be discovered. People have to be able to find you to know about you. And 46% of Google searches are actually for local businesses across the board. So people will look up, when it comes to restaurants, like best Peruvian food near me, best ice cream shop near me, right? They're going to look for things and they're going to word it in that way. So you want to make sure that you are appearing in those searches so that people can find you. So a way for you to help people find you is to always geotag any post that you do on social with your location. So, when you post on Instagram and you can select the location, make sure that you're doing that so that when people search, you potentially come up in that search. And you want to use local hashtags as well. So these are just some that are popular in the South Florida area: Miami food, Miami eats, Miami foodie, et cetera, et cetera. You can adapt this for wherever you're located, and just do a little bit of research and make sure that you're using those hashtags to help people when they're searching. You also want to make sure that you're using any feature that helps people interact. So on Instagram, for example, using a call to action in your profile, making sure you're linking to the right thing, right? DM to order, for example, or reserve now. You want to make it easy for people to take action. So it's this part we kind of miss sometimes when it comes to social media. We think it's enough that, oh, we're just posting. No, you want to make sure that you're thinking about what's the next step I want them to take, right? I want them to look at my account. I want them to see something that they like, that they want to eat, and then I want them to come in, right? So we have to make sure that we're making it easy for that last part to happen, for them to actually come in. So for them to reserve, for them to call, for them to find out more information. Google My Business is also really great for this. Not only does it help you with the discoverability, so when people are searching, like, best Mexican restaurant in Coral Gables or whatever, they can find you, but you can also collect reviews, and you want to make sure that you are updating this page. You want to make sure that you're adding photos, that you're encouraging reviews, you're providing a menu, for example, anything that people need to make a decision. So here's an example of a Google My Business page. This is Azúcar. This is a place that many of us in this area would be familiar with in Little Havana. It's an ice cream shop. So when somebody is Googling, this comes up, right? And as you can see, right, they have many photos that have been added to this, and the pertinent links are there, right? Order pickup, order delivery, website. You can customize all of this inside of Google My Business. And it's important because 97% of consumers are going to search online, and 88% of mobile searches for local businesses result in a call or a visit within 24 hours. And when we're hungry, we're hungry. We want to go figure something out. Unless you're, thinking about a place that you want to go to maybe a week from now or a few days from now. But when you're Googling for a place to eat, sometimes it's because you're looking for something right then and there, right? And so people are searching on their phones. So you want to make sure that you are appearing in those searches because that will help you with foot traffic. Other ways that you can kind of leverage local SEO to attract diners is to not do it yourself, but to collaborate with others. So with food influencers, with bloggers, right? They already have a built-in audience, so they can help you increase awareness. They can help you get more press and more exposure. They can help build credibility through reviews. And they can also help create high quality content for your brand. A lot of times they will come into the restaurant, they'll take photos, they'll take videos. That's stuff that you can repost or stuff that you can maybe even use for your own accounts. If you are newer, and you're really trying to get awareness out, I would say to focus on micro influencers, people that don't have a ton of followers. And you want to look for them either using hashtags like some of the ones that I included before, or Googling, for example, Miami food influencers. And what's really important is that you're looking at their engagement, not just the follower count. Because it's great if they have a lot of followers, but if nobody's commenting, if nobody's sharing the post, if there's no interaction, that's kind of a red flag. So we want to make sure that there's actual engagement with those followers that they have. And a very simple way to approach this is to offer them free food in exchange for a review. If you have it within the budget, you can maybe take it a step further and look into a paid partnership, right? Something where they would promote you a certain number of times, and you can negotiate how many posts they might do for you, etc. Right? This could be another way for you to make use of influencers who already have an audience to help you drive more customers. Speaking of customers, we're going to move to tip 5, which is how are we turning followers into customers? Because followers are great, but paying customers are better, right? You could have, 50,000 followers on your restaurant account, but if none of them are coming in, then you don't have a business, right? So we want to focus on revenue, and that's really key because that's affecting your bottom line. And social media followers are not going to pay for that. So how do we get them into the restaurant? You can offer a social media only bonus or something specific. So for example, a free drink or a dessert if you show this post. If you can kind of think about when you have slow periods. So let's say Wednesday nights are kind of slow. Maybe you do it on Wednesday night and you say, hey, if you come in on Wednesday night and you show us this post, we'll give you free dessert or something like that. Or the first 10 customers to take us up on this, offer will get a free drink, something like that. Time limits work really well because time limits create urgency, right? And people want to be able to experience something. So if you have a limited time menu item, especially if you are focusing on something that is seasonal and say, hey, we're this weekend only, we have this ready for you. Or, in the month of March, we're doing something special. You want to promote that on stories and on your social media because it will create a sense of FOMO or fear of missing out. And you want that. You want people to come in. So you want to create a sense of urgency for them to do that. And the way you do that is by doing something that is limited time, something that's special, something that they have to go try. We all know that feeling of, place that becomes really, really popular and then they sell out, right? And it's like, oh, we got to get there before it sells out, because I remember that used to happen with Salty Donut when they first started. Down here in South Florida, it was like, oh, we got to go to Salty Donut because they run out of donuts by a certain time. And they had people lined up around the block. You want to kind of create that sort of frenzy, if you will, and you can do that only if things are limited or there's that perceived sense of, oh, they might run out and I might not get it. You also want to make it easy for them to book a reservation. They shouldn't have to try too hard. It should be pretty obvious. So you want to make sure that you're linking a reservation platform if you're using it, wherever it is that you handle reservations. You want to make sure that the steps are clear, that the steps are easy, because humans are lazy, right? If it's too complicated, they're just going to jump ship and they're going to go try something else. So make sure that it is easy for them to book, that there's no friction, that there's nothing getting in the way, because that's the worst thing, right? If somebody wanted to go to your restaurant, but you made the process hard for them to book, they're just like, whatever, I'll figure it out. I'll go somewhere else. And you don't want that to happen. And the last tip that I have here on ways that you could potentially get them into the restaurant is you could run a giveaway. In exchange for promotion. You could say something like, repost this for your chance to win a free dinner for two, right? Or if you wanted to do some other kind of special treat, you could tie this to a holiday, something like Mother's Day or Valentine's Day or whatever. That might help you to get at least more awareness and then potentially new customers. A way to help you with all of this is to lean into automations. So you can set up a DM automation. So if somebody messages you with a common question, it will just automatically reply. So people might DM you and ask you, what are your hours? Or do you accommodate allergies? Do you have gluten-free options? Do you do catering? Right? All the kind of questions that you typically might get. Instead of having a human answer them, you can create an automation. You can do auto replies on Instagram and Facebook. The way you do that is by setting it up inside of the Meta Business Suite. Or you can use a chatbot tool, something like ManyChat, ChatFuel, or Mobile Monkey. These are just some options that will help you and give you a little more customization if you wanted to set this up. I would only set this up if you are getting a lot of messages and a lot of requests, and you're getting a set of questions over and over again. Then you might want to try this. If not, it's not necessary at the beginning, but it might be something useful for you. This goes back to tip 3, I believe it was, or maybe 2, about making sure that we are treating them the same way that we would if they're in our space, right? It's about that hospitality part. Okay, looks like I have that twice. Okay, so let's recap really quickly. You want to make your content mouthwatering. You want to post consistently. You want to engage like a host. You want to use local SEO to attract diners, and you want to turn followers into customers. A few things that I want you to consider before you jump into creating content, or let's say you've been creating content for a while and you just kind of need a revamp. These are great questions to ask yourself. First, we're going to start with the basic. What is my brand? Okay. In other words, how do I want people to feel when they eat at my restaurant? You also want to research other restaurants that are in a similar category to you. So if you're a fast casual restaurant, you want to look at other fast casual restaurants. Okay, what are they doing? What are the stuff that they're posting? Look at the number of likes that their content is getting. Try to figure out, okay, it seems like this post that they did really well. Why? Can I recreate that, or can I do something similar? Right? We want to draw inspiration from other people. It seems like things are already working. That way you're not starting from scratch. You want to bank content creation. So what that means is just you're filming a lot of videos at once, or you're doing a lot of photos at once. That way you can stay consistent. Or another option, if you have the ability to, would be to hire somebody to help, right? You could have somebody on your staff doing it and managing it. And I know a few restaurants or cafes that have done that, where they have somebody that already works within the restaurant doing that. So they have kind of two different roles. They're doing their regular thing and they're also doing social media. Sometimes that works. It depends on how busy you are. It depends on how much content you need. Or you can hire somebody. You can have somebody who just does social media for you, that comes in maybe once or twice a week, gets all the content that they need, and then they go ahead and post, right? And they handle that and you don't have to worry about it. You want to make sure that you're posting consistently, because that will give you an idea of what works and what doesn't. And whatever works, you can do more of, and you can learn from it. So posting consistently is really beneficial for you because it will give you information. And that way you can be smart about what it is that you're doing and how you're spending your time. And also potentially spending your money, right? If you're hiring somebody to do social media and what they're doing isn't working, you need to know that too. And another thing to consider is to lean into partnerships. Are there other restaurants? Are there adjacent businesses or even local publications that you could partner with? You know, let's say, so a perfect example of this is the ice cream shop Salt and Straw. They're a national chain, but they're located here in South Florida, and they typically will partner with local businesses to create new ice cream flavors. So they've partnered with Panther Coffee. So they have a Panther Coffee flavor. Can you do something similar? Can you support a business, a local purveyor of vegetables, or somebody to kind of create additional not only branding but potential buzz for your restaurant? How can you partner with other people? How can you do that? I know that things can be sometimes competitive, but think about ways that you can partner with adjacent businesses so they're not competing necessarily for the same customers. And also local publications are great. There are several, yes, influencers we can talk about, but there are local publications that are dedicated just to reviewing food. There's Hungry Post, for example. Think about how you can get publicity through them. Think about how you can get featured on different local publications, because that will also help you. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to open it up for questions. Let me go to the chat here and see. Oh, I see where you guys were telling me that you don't see the slides, but I was in presenter mode. So sorry about that. Hopefully we all got to see that. I'm not seeing any questions here. I don't know if there's any in like a Q&A. If you guys have questions, please let me know. Drop them in the chat. We can go over any part of this presentation if you'd like. And if not, then you can always sign up for consulting to get one-on-one feedback on specifically what you're doing or what you might need. Okay, well, Alexis, I'm not seeing any chat, any stuff come through, or Lauren, I don't know if you see any questions.
No, there doesn't seem to be any questions in the chat at this time. Oh, okay, Victor just had a question. He says, do you recommend blogs or blogging?
I think it depends on what your goals are and what you have time to do. So blogging is something that you would do it's great for search engine optimization. So it's really great for that purpose. It depends on what it is that you're trying to do. So are you trying to just bring more people in? Do you have a restaurant? Do you have a bakery? Do you have, it kind of depends on those different factors. Blogging can be really time consuming to do it properly. And it takes quite a while for blogging to be effective if you're talking about something on Google. So long term, it can be really great and it can bring you constant traffic to your website. But I think if you're a restaurant, I would focus more on social media than I would focus on blogging, unless you want to expand. Let's say you want to do a cookbook or you want to do something else. And I don't know if maybe you're asking about, okay, so I have more questions here. CRM and text. Definitely text messages can be great. You want to be really careful about how often you're texting. You can achieve the same thing with email as well, depending again on what it is that you're doing. So let's say you have a catering company, maybe you want to leverage that a little bit more. Or if you have new menu items and things like that, you can definitely set that up. I don't know that you would really need a CRM. Depends on if you are a restaurant versus a food brand, if you want to leverage something like email marketing. So I'd recommend that you set up some time so we can chat through it. So I can give you more of a concrete answer on that. And then let's see, new social media platforms to keep an eye on. I'm going to be honest with you. I think this year is going to be very interesting for social media platforms. We've already seen the year started with a TikTok ban, then it wasn't banned, then, we're not really sure. I would not be surprised if new things pop up. There's not currently anything on my radar. I think for the restaurant space, you should just kind of focus on what's been working at least up until now. So I would say Instagram. I mean, TikTok is still around, so I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily to be focused on that space. Yelp is another one that is quite popular, at least for people searching. So I don't necessarily think that you need to get on a new social media platform or anything new. I think it would be more like, what technology can you leverage? That's more of the question I would ask. Maybe there's like an automation tool that you can use or something else that might help you over like a fully new platform. And I think, yep, they just dropped in there the link so that you can request consulting so that we can meet and go over specifically what's going on in the business, what are your goals? That way we can put together a plan. We can talk through all of these different factors. What platform did I said, yeah, Instagram and TikTok, Yelp, just to, yeah. Here, I'll put this in here. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, people still definitely use Yelp for restaurants because Yelp also gives you a little more information sometimes, and even Google My Business, because there's that section that talks about like, is it good for groups? What's the attire, et cetera, et cetera. So Yelp is great. All right, so I don't think we have any more questions. Thank you guys for being here. And if you need anything else, you require further assistance or you want to dive into consulting, I'm more than happy to chat with you about your business and help you get to where it is that you need to be. So I think on my end, we're wrapped. I don't know if you guys want to mention anything else. There are links in the chat for you to sign up for consulting if you need those. Otherwise, I think have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much, Emily, and thank you all for attending today's workshop. Again, we do really appreciate your feedback, and Lauren has provided a link to survey. We just want to get some feedback from you all about the experience, about the topic, feedback for Emily. That way we can continue to do these kind of workshops. If the time frame was a little bit of a challenge for you all, we need to hear these things from you so we can adjust and make sure that you're getting the most out of the content and the resources that we provide. So please take a moment to do the survey, and we will see you all at the next workshop. Thank you again so much, Emily, and thank you to the participants for your time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.